Howdy mates, here's a part 2 video over at the Carlton Reserve. Noticeably, as I was walking through not that far away from my last video, I stumbled upon even more flora that I have recently come to learn about that exist in Florida. So first off, I want to start with this guy right here. Some of you have probably seen these before, but probably didn't know the name. So, for those of you who were curious enough, this is something called an Herbwilliam, also known as a Mock Bishopweed. Now, what's fascinating about this plant is it's actually in the family of Apiaceae, which is the same family where wild carrot belongs. So, a common characteristic of these types of plants have to do with the individual flowers, as I will show you right now. So as you can see, these little flowers right here, they are so tiny, like they're in tiny little clusters. And what's fascinating to me is I've always associated these types of plants to look like fireworks, because you can see like one branches off here, another one, and another one. So it's like a cluster within a cluster. And if you look closely enough, I just wish this phone would be a bit better at zooming in. Unfortunately, it isn't. But each individual flower arrangement has 5 petals that are white, of course. And like I said, they are absolutely tiny. Now, typically these types of plants have a very deep taproot. So that you could say that even with how small these are, they have quite the foundation. So it's kind of like what you're seeing here is tip of the iceberg. And these types of plants really like water. And that's why their taproot is so deep. But please keep in mind though, as opposed to something like wild carrot, Mock Bishopweed is inedible. So please, if you are trying to sample something, it's best to just not consume it. But when you do grab part of the plant and squeeze it, you know, and rub it against your fingers, it does produce quite the aroma. And that's another common characteristic of plants falling under the family of Apiaceae. And I'll be sure to actually spell that out in the description. Okay, so moving on, the next plant that I want to point out is something called pineweed, also known as orange grass. So this particular plant is actually related to a lot of the St. John's worts plants. Yeah, I can't think of the exact family under the binomial system, but all you need to know is that this plant is called pineweed. Now, what's fascinating about this particular plant is when you look at the flowers, they kind of remind you of looking at a star. So as you can see, there are 5 individual petals, and as a matter of fact, they kind of remind you of looking at seaweed in a sense, you know, just based on the stems and whatnot. But honestly though, there doesn't really seem to be much available information on this plant. I guess it's just, I don't know. It seems to have more of the basic info, you know, in terms of classification and whatnot, but not so much on, you know, practical uses, like commercial use. But since they are related to other St. John's worts, they have been used in medicine, you know, especially for serious conditions such as HIV, and has even been included in, you know, antidepressants for people who experience depression. So honestly, to this moment, there is still research being done in terms of what plants coming from St. John's worts can do for the medical field. So it's still, you know, a lot of it is still being worked on, you know, in terms of its effectiveness. But the pineweed actually does have a very wide distribution. They have been found as far south as Florida, and you can even find them throughout the Midwest. In addition. So yeah. And it seems like they really like to be next to each other, too. I forgot to mention about, you know, with the, what you call Mock Bishopweed, what also falls under Apiaceae are some plants such as Dill, too, in addition. So, it's in Fennel. Dill and Fennel. Yep. There we go. Like I said, I knew there was like another point I wanted to make in the video, but I couldn't remember what it was when I first started it. So, there you have it. That's a piece on the Mock Bishopweed and the Pineweed, too. And same thing, like they both like to be in moist soil that is also sandy, too, in addition. So, you know, when it comes to nutrient value, they're not as what you call picky. So, alright, you guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. And once again, journey on a journey is outwards. Take care, folks. See ya.